Mariam al-Halak lives in a Berlin suburb. She's from Syria and part of a major hunt to catch Syrian Secret Service members who committed crimes like these. Mariam's son, Ayyam, is one of the regime's many victims. He was beaten and tortured to death when the Syrian civil war broke out.
One of his fellow students even helped torture him. He had always been very courteous towards Ayyam and greeted him. I don't understand how someone could turn into a torturer and become a monster like that.
Syria's Secret Service systematically tortured Ayyam just for speaking up for human rights, demanding Syria become a democratic country, and for urging Assad to step down. Now, 8 years after Ayyam's death, his mother wants justice.
I want the culprits to be brought to justice, from the accomplices all the way up to President Assad. These people are responsible for spilling our children's blood.
There are more than 26,000 pictures of Syrian torture victims, smuggled out of the war-torn country by a courageous former police photographer. They could help convict Syrian torturers and murderers in the coming years. Their victims and their relatives demand justice, like Syrian human rights lawyer Mazen Darwish, who was tortured before being able to flee the Syrian capital, Damascus.
After a few months in the security service and the branches, we become like this.
Many of his friends and political allies in the fight against the Assad regime were abused like this. No one knows how many people lost their lives.
There is some. I lose a lot of people in these security branches. I still remember.
The lawyer shared all of his information with European investigators and has joined human rights organizations in pressing charges against former Syrian tormentors. European police are currently investigating former Assad torturers who fled to Europe disguised as refugees. In February, one suspect was arrested in France and 2 others in Germany. Among them, Anwar R., who came to the German capital Berlin as an asylum seeker.
This is the first time it will be a trial in these cases. This is the first time, this is the first time there is a respectable, independent court and judge, and we have victim and suspect, and we exercise the law and the state of law. We don't have it in Syria.
We have seen documents showing that Germany's Federal Office of Criminal Investigation has investigated Anwar R.'s suspected involvement with the Syrian Secret Service. We have asked the Syrian embassy in Berlin for a statement. It refused to comment. It could be that the prosecution of Syrian torturers seems to be gathering momentum in Europe. We're at the Secret Investigative Bureau somewhere in Europe, where Bill Wiley, of the Commission of International Justice and Accountability, is working hard to catch Syrian criminals. He used to hunt war criminals as a UN prosecutor. Now, he has access to a vast archive of Syrian state documents that could prove crucial in catching Assad's henchmen.
Basically, what you have in this room are materials generated by the security intelligence structures of Syria, the military structures of Syria, and the Ba'ath Party or political structures of Syria at the top level and at the governorate levels.
Here they are, the files documenting the crimes of the Syrian regime. They have been meticulously cleaned, scanned, and logged, and carefully analyzed by several dozen investigators. The UN trials on crimes committed in former Yugoslavia and on the Rwandan genocide taught Wiley one thing. Without a paper trail, it is very difficult to bring culprits to justice. That's why these Syrian state documents, which were smuggled out of the country amid the tumultuous civil war, are so valuable. They comprise interrogation reports and many other files that document figures within the security apparatus that systematically tortured people. They also shed light on suspected Syrian torturers like Anwar R.
How many of that type of people do you think are living in Europe nowadays?
That we're aware of that more senior ranks, such as Anwar are, 10 to 12. There may be more that we're not aware of.
But 10 to 12 you're aware of. But knowing the documents, could you imagine that there are more?
There could be more in Europe. There's certainly more outside of Syria, whether they're in Turkey or elsewhere in the Middle East now.
Mariam al-Halak, whose son Ayyam was murdered by the Syrian Secret Service, hopes that not only the killers of her son will be caught, but all perpetrators that have gone into hiding will meet justice. For her, the hunt has just begun.